Alright, this is a game for Puck. We're going to look at a team ranked game that he played on April 4th. It's currently a gold 2 this season in team ranked. Puck's playing Delhi Sultanate. Puck said overall we're going to switch to him here, reveal all map. He wanted some tips with villager idle time and just general gameplay tips. So we're not going to focus a whole lot on team strategy here. I don't know if you just solo queue with these guys or play with these guys or what the deal is. Looks like you follow a build here. Pretty normal to get some wood as deli first. Then go over to the berries. Get your mosque house mill. You should get wheelbarrow, which you do, so that's good. I'm interested to know if you hotkey your buildings. So already we have a little villager idle time. I think that's because you're not shift queuing villagers. I think sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, but we saw after building the house we had some idle. So broadly we want to look at villager idle time and general gameplay tips within this recording. So a few things I want to watch is shift queuing with your villagers, shift queuing up actions, what they're going to do next. Where you're rallying your TC, or are you rallying it to resources? I'm speed it up a little bit here so we can get through this first part. So in general, I watched this recording pretty fast earlier. And I know you go Ghazi and go raid, which I fully support. I love raiding with the Ghazi Raiders. So we have a situation here. I'm not sure you had a misclick. I'm sure you don't do this all the time. But you rallied your TC behind the wood line for some reason. So I think you just, you were moving quickly, put your rally point in the wrong spot, and now you've got villager idle time for 20 seconds probably because you created a new villager during that time. So that's just something to be mindful of. You still got the rally point out here. You just moved it. So we want to make sure we're getting as much out of our eco as possible. And that means our villagers are always working. Always easier said than done. Like you're never going to be able to 100% get rid of villager idle time. Even if you watch the pros, they get villager idle time. Of course, a very, very, very small amount compared to what you would get. I'm also interested to see if you have these guys shift click on the straggler tree, which you do, which that's good. A lot of the time when you create a scholar from a mosque, they sit on the outside of it. So just something to keep in mind. You garrison them, which is good. You're getting your double broadaxe, specialized pick. Other upgrades, I would probably recommend, and I know you queued up survival techniques in Dark Age, but you probably want to get horticulture first. You can actually cancel a deli technology after it's been started. It'll save how much time you've researched. So right here, this is a villager not getting shift queued so he doesn't move to the wood line. We're going to see this guy sits here for a long time. This is 553. Oh, I was wrong. He moved. It's a good job picking him up. So what ends up happening is this English guy longbow rushes over here, which should have been scouted by the Ottoman player. Ottoman player should have said, hey, Delhi, I'm going to need some help. Can you send your Ghazis over here? And you should have sent your Ghazis over here and just cleaned this up before it ever became a serious, serious issue, which it does later in the game. So one thing I've noticed is we're at 7 minutes and you have 600 wood. So we're trying to think about like how do we best maximize our eco. We want our villagers always working. We, unless we are going to the next stage, want to be spending all of our resources. We don't want to float a lot of resources. That can be a bit inevitable at the end of the game when you're at 200 pop and you're going to float some resources. But 7 minutes into the game, you don't want to be floating 900 resources unless you were doing a fast castle. So kind of broadly, you kind of want to think like, hey, what's the game plan? You know, after I throw down the stable, I have 10 guys on wood. What do I want to do with that wood? Do you want to throw down more stables and make more Ghazi raiders? And that way you won't need a scholar garrison tier. You can send the scholars to the sacred sites. If your opponent's making spears, do you need to throw down archer ranges and make archers? Delhi normally doesn't do second TC, but normally if I saw that you were stacking this much wood, I would be thinking, Puck's making a second town center. You know, you got 665 wood. Other thing is, and you end up doing this, you can throw down blacksmiths. But right now, you may as well use the wood. So you get your rally point. I'm not sure exactly what happens here. I think, and maybe you can explain this to me better than I can see it. I think you've got your stable rallied out here. And then you move your town center to, I think you accidentally select your town center and start rallying villagers out here. Might have been on purpose, so correct me if I'm wrong, but something I've noticed in your gameplay is we need to be very cognizant of where our TC rally point is, because that gets you a few times in this game. So these villagers built the archery range, should have been shift queued back to a resource. You throw down double blacksmith. I love that. You had a lot of wood. You may as well use it. This guy, I wasn't paying attention. I don't know how he gets here, but this is the idle villager that sits here for a long time. It's 850. So we'll see how long he stays here. And once you get the double blacksmith, got to start researching the techs. That's pretty crucial because they're going to take a long time to come in as Delhi. So you have 2 idols, 4 idols. I think something that would really help you, much easier said than done, is just really paying attention to this idle villager button down here and cycling through the villagers. Because right now you've got 4. You've got 34 eco. You really only have 30 villagers if you've got 4 villagers idle right now. So that's just something to keep in mind. That would probably help you out a lot. One thing I like thinking about that helps me is you've got a lot of Ghazis, right? So you went and you built all these Ghazis. You have 14 Ghazi raiders. And you have 35 eco. So let's see what everybody else is at. Red's got 44. Pink's got 33. Purple's got 49. So when you go aggressive, obviously you're defending orange here some. Uh, you want your eco to be doing well behind your aggression. And for a lot of civs, that's like you get some units out, you attack, you build a second town center. For you as Delhi, you're aggressive, and behind that, you get your sacred sites. So I know we're mostly focusing on just the base and villagers right now, but I would love you to get these sacred sites earlier. And the other tip I would just suggest is you don't need villagers to come out here and build walls around the sacred sites, because your spearmen, probably you're going to build archers, but spearmen or archers can build walls around the sacred sites. So you want to get your scholars out there. Behind the aggression that you have with Ghazi raiders, you want to capture sacred sites, you want to try to control those, and hopefully you're coordinating with your teammates and that fits their strategy. So Japan went 2TC. Hopefully that makes some sense. Again, I think, we'll have 4 idle villagers for a while. As far as, you've got a lot of villagers queued, but as far as actually producing villagers, you're doing a good job. Like, I don't think I've seen your TC go idle. Now, you don't necessarily need 8 villagers in queue. We should ideally look for that to be around 2, maybe 3 at the max, because if you have 9 villagers in queue right now, that's 450 food that you can't use to make Ghazis. So you really just want 1 or 2 of those guys in queue at the same time, but at least you've got your villagers cranking out of there, which is a very good thing for your eco. I don't know exactly what happened with these guys. You might have just misclicked and not clicked on the berry bush. You still got an idle guy at home. Still got an idle guy by the wall. And so when we're thinking about idle villagers, why this button's so important is you're never going to remember this guy by the wall. It's just not going to happen. Me nor you are going to remember this guy by the wall. So that's where the idle villager button is going to really help you. And I know you're over here fighting with the Ghazis trying to help out the Ottoman guy, but at the end of the day, your ability to produce units, which comes from your economy, is more important. So, like, you want to get out there, you want to fight, you want to raid, you want to defend your allies if you need to. But to continue to create those units and do all of those things and win the game, it kind of starts with your eco. And if you've got 7 guys idle, 8 guys, it's almost 25% of your eco right now that's just not working. Like, you've got the villagers, they're just not working. And that's probably the biggest thing for you. You'd get a lot better if you cut down on villager idle time and you fix your macro. Because you're climbing up very high into how much wood you have right now. And if I was you playing this game and I looked at my resources and I said, I've got 1,500 wood. Like, I need to pull some guys off wood, right? It's fine to have your TC rallied there. You can always pull the guys off, and if you've got your TC rallied to the wood line, then, great. At least when they come out of the TC, they're gathering a resource. But take 10 guys and go get food. If you're worried, I would generally not say build farms, but if you've got 1,500 wood, just go build 10 farms around your town center with these guys. And then you'll have way more food to pump out units. Possibly go castle age. Other thing I know people do if they stockpile way more wood than they would like, just go ahead and throw down some more unit producers. You've got 1 stable. Take 10 guys off wood, get food, throw down 3 stables, make a lot of Ghazis. Alternatively, you're really pretty close to castle if you stopped gathering so much wood. Go castle, throw down stables, make a bunch of lancers. The guys out here could probably benefit from a lumber camp. Yeah, you're getting sacred sites now, which is good. It's a bit later in the game than you want to be doing that. You really want to put pressure on them before they have many units. And when you've got a bunch of Ghazi raiders, like, hey, come, I've got the sacred sites. You got to force them to try to get you off of those. Yeah, I would say key takeaways is macro. So you're up to 1600 wood right now, and you desperately need food, right? Like you've got plus 300 food. Your town center's using 150 a minute, so you can build one Ghazi raider every minute right now. So you've got to, if you get to this point in the game where you see it's unbalanced, you've got to just say, hey, I'm a bit unbalanced right now. Let me grab some villagers, throw them on a different resource. That's probably the best way to do it. If you were floating a bunch of gold, I would say, I mean, you could even do it with wood. Throw down a market, sell some of the wood, buy some food. It's not the most efficient way to do it, but will help you balance out your macro a bit. Second key takeaway would be where your TC is rallying. So early on, we saw you had your TC rallied behind this wood line. Then we had it rallied up here near the enemy base. I think that's probably why you built the outpost up here, but maybe you had a different plan. But I kind of think you accidentally got a villager up there and then just said, screw it, I'll build an outpost. But that could have been the plan, just to watch the relic, which in that case, you might just want to build a palisade wall around the relic instead of the outpost. I do like this. I like that you're out on the deer. You could probably pull wood villagers out on this deer because you need food. And you've already got survival techniques, which is nice. And then again here we can see the TCs rally to this mosque. And again, I'm sure this is just, it's Age of Empires. There's a lot going on. You're multitasking. Your town center gets rallied at the wrong spot. Happens to everybody. But as far as some key takeaways, we'll have idle villagers here for however long until you notice that they're idle. And if you had this TC just rallying to a resource, even just the sheep, you got some sheep here. You pulled those villagers. So we had 3 villagers there. That means the first villager was idle for at least 40 seconds. So yeah, those are probably the 2 key takeaways from this. I think if you work on your villager idle time and fix your macro, you'll be playing honestly a lot better than you were playing right now. Because you got to kind of think like, hey, if I had, instead of having 2,400 wood right now, if I had 2,000 food, how many more units would I have out? Or I could have gone castle and started making lancers. And then all these night raids, you could have just cleaned up with lancers. So that's kind of how I would look at it, especially if you had, I don't know at the end of the game how much villager idle time you had. You might want to go look at that. But based on how much time you have, you also would have had a lot more resources that you could spend on units. And since Delhi focuses normally more on one town center and getting the sacred sites, you want to be really efficient with the economy that you have, because a lot of their game plan is, hey, I'm going to make more units than you and beat you in the field. So you want to be really efficient with that economy so that you can follow through with that game plan of, hey, I've got more units. I'm going to beat you and take the sacred sites, and you got to try to push me off these. So hopefully those general tips were helpful for you. I think if you work on paying attention to the idle villager button where your TC is rallying, shift queuing villagers, if they build a building or if you're moving them to a location, you shift queue them to a resource. I think all three of those will save you, to be honest with you, minutes of idle time that your villagers are having right now. And then just every couple minutes looking down here, seeing if your resources are unbalanced, if you need to pull some guys off a resource, build a market to even the resources out. I think that will really improve your gameplay. So thanks for watching, and let me know if you have any feedback or questions.